I am Marisa, and this is my story as the director of María Isabel School. My school is a public primary school in Pieza with a mixed socioeconomic community with many migrant or low-income families. We are working very closely with families who are very involved but who often have challenges that affect how they can support their children's learning. Our classrooms are full of different realities. Students with special educational needs such as autism or ADHD, others with learning difficulties who need more support to keep up, and many who are still learning the language and struggle to follow lessons or express themselves. We also have students dealing with social and emotional challenges. It is a rich and diverse environment, but also a very demanding one. And at the center of it all, there is a team of deeply committed teachers with a strong vocation doing everything they can to respond to every child and every family. And I thought everything was going well until I received the diagnosis of my school. It showed that my teaching staff were experiencing work overload, high levels of stress, and difficulties managing classroom behavior, as well as a lack of training in inclusive education. And, and if that wasn't enough, I received further news. The public administration had decided to generate a standardized proposal using AI, assuming they could solve every school's problems. So, as the director, I had to take a look at them and decide whether they were actually useful for my school or not. A friend of mine working in administration sent me these screenshots with a conversation with ChatGPT and the list of chat measures. The list was too long for a center with limited resources and exhausted team. But among all those in-person proposals, there were five that, with the necessary adaptations, could actually help my school. The first measure is workload review and redistribution, which includes meetings to review and reduce unnecessary tasks, or simply rotate responsibilities between teachers. It fits perfectly with their need to reduce stress caused by work overload, and although it is not directly an inclusion measure, it is indirectly connected to attention to diversity policies, since this increased the demands on teachers without always adapting their working condition. This shows a gap between what policies expect and what schools can realistically do. On top of that, it would also improve relationships with the students and their families because the less stressed the teachers are, the better the mood in the classroom. And perhaps most importantly, it would strengthen relationships between teachers themselves, as collaboration and mutual support naturally increase when no one feels like they are drowning alone in their workload. The second measure is the implementation of co-teaching and support teaching model where two teachers share responsibility in the same classroom or coordinate to respond to a student's diverse needs. Here, where diversity is not the exception but the norm, this is almost a necessity, especially when facing behavioral problems or situations where several students do not speak the language. In fact, this kind of help is already backed up by education policy. Pupils with specific learning difficulties or ADHD may receive support from specialized teachers. However, in reality, these supports are often limited due to lack of resources, which creates tension in the classroom. The best, students receive more personalized support and teachers work as a team, strengthening teacher-student relationships and teacher collaboration, promoting shared responsibility. The third measure is an inclusive education training program, which works for my school because teachers are dedicated but not always ready to deal with the complicated situations in their classrooms, such as cultural diversity or language barriers. It is a measure that fits naturally within the school system and is supported by the inclusion policies, which say that teachers must have specific training for inclusion. However, this training is not always practical enough or continuous, which limits its real impact on classrooms. Over time, this would also have a clear impact on relationships within the school. students would feel better understood, and teachers would give them the tools to integrate themselves in the classroom. This way, teacher-student relationships can grow faster and stronger. The fourth measure focuses on strengthening the student support team. Right now, many decisions related to a student's need feel fragmented or reactive, especially in classrooms with a high level of diversity. But a stronger SST could bring coherence and direction to all those efforts, acting as a bridge between teachers, specialists, and management team. This kind of structure is already part of the school system and is supported by the same policies as the third measure. However, in practice, lack of time and coordination after limits its effectiveness, and if implemented effectively, it could transform coordination across the school and ensure that no student's needs are left apart. It would improve relationships between teachers and faculties and communities of practice. Finally, the fifth measure is the development of a recognition and well-being culture program, something that goes beyond specific actions and tries to change how teachers feel within the school. It is not about large structural changes, but about introducing small, consistent practices that make teachers feel valued and supported, such as no meeting protected periods or for celebrating others' success. Although this type of initiative is not explicitly included in attention to diversity policies, it is closely related, just like the first one. The problem is that most policies focus more on student outcomes than on protecting teachers in this context. But in the long run, it can shift the emotional climate of a school, reinforcing relationships among staff, which ultimately affects the entire educational community. After all this talk, you might be wondering why I didn't pick other measures. As I reviewed the AI proposal, I realized that some dimensions of diversity were barely touched or simply exposed between the lines. For example, the AI suggested administrative simplification and shared resource bank, but neither of these truly confronts the linguistic and cultural diversity of my schools. Many of our students are still learning the language of instruction, but the proposal doesn't solve this problem. Socioeconomic vulnerability isn't approached either. The AI's flexible scheduling assumes families can adapt, or our families often struggle with their jobs and chores, and the realities don't always fit neatly into a timetable or structured plan. Also, protected weekly collaboration was partly included in my first measure, so I didn't prefer it over others. And then there are the emotional and behavioral needs. The well-being support system sounded promising, but it framed mental health as an individual issue. However, migration, stability, or social exclusion are not isolated cases, they are part of the daily life of the school. In the end, the proposal recognizes diversity in theory, but not in the complex and human way in which it actually exists in my classrooms. Talking about diversity, can you imagine how hard it is to make inclusion real at schools? And inclusion does not only challenge my school, but also globally. Take a look at these two cases. The first one, Rohan, an 11-year-old Indian student with mild autism spectrum disorder, had behavioral and communication issues. He started attending regular schools, but soon got rejected from 3 of them, so the investigator created an individualized education program. After 18 months, Rohan was prepared for coming to a regular school again. One didactic strategy was to situate him in class away from distractions. However, they faced limitations both at the class level, such as the teacher ratio 1:30, and school level. Inclusion was an approach in the school policy. Another case study, which takes place in Zimbabwe, looked for inclusion in a school full of diversity, students with physical disabilities, hearing, and seeing impairments, etc. The main didactic strategy involved teacher training to adopt their instructional methods and include sign language in subjects. However, the initiative faces critical changes at the classroom and school levels, primarily for classes exceeding 50 students and lack of essential resources like assistive devices and support staff. So, what's really interesting here is how differently these cases deal with diversity. In Rohan's case, everything revolves around one student. This is the system that adapts to him with a very personalized approach. But in the Zimbabwe case, it's the opposite. The focus is on everyone at once. Teachers change how they teach so all students can be included together. And now, moving back to my school context, there are some organizational decisions that I must take as the director. The first one is grouping, and it is really complex since each type has its cons and pros, and they depend mostly on prioritizing students' results or well-being. As here we prioritize inclusion, I'm choosing mixed ability grouping for horizontal and vertical organization, since this way they can learn all together and enrich their knowledge. This decision involves all the actors in school. Teachers must try to adapt to the wide range of abilities with the advantage of co-teaching. High ability students can get bored if tasks aren't challenging, while low ability students might not follow the lessons, and parents can complain about the level of the tasks and who the children co-work with. But who knows? Maybe, after all, an average level of knowledge is created in the classroom so they can all get the most of this grouping. The second decision is scheduling, which has the complexity of adapting to both the law and the students' and parents' flexibility. Taking this into account, I am adapting the block type so there are long classes of 60 or 90 minutes, but every subject is taught the required time, including the attending in the afternoon, so they don't lose focus. The schedule as the grouping affects the teachers who need to make their classes longer, the students' performance, and the parents' schedule. One unexpected consequence would be that longer lessons could increase behavioral issues if they aren't prepared enough, which could raise teacher stress. The third decision is related to coexistence and school rules, whose complexity is based on the requirements of not only defining clear norms, but also ensuring coherence between the rule, the positive outcome of following it, and the educational consequence of not following it. Besides, they generate tensions because of the diversity of cultures and beliefs. The main actors affected are teachers who must apply rules consistently, students who need to understand them completely, and families who should reinforce these values at home. And although it is unlikely, I hope this rule don't increase behavioral problems either. As you can see, I aim to fulfill the role of a transformational leader, focusing not only on improving students' academic results, but also on inclusion, well-being, and coexistence. Moreover, I try to create an inspiring atmosphere in which every member of my school community can propose new ideas and feel that they belong. In this way, I aim to reduce stress on employees and behavioral problems on students, my main issues. Having all that said, now it's time to reflect about the final result. Honestly, I am very happy with the development of the exam, and I truly believe I have fulfilled all the criteria outstandingly. I spent a lot of time looking for information for how to adapt the theoretical content to my words and the way I wanted the video to sound like a kind of catchy podcast, and for how to synthesize everything I wanted to say without exceeding the limits. Moving to the ideas I got from these courses, I have to admit that before school organization course, I didn't see being a director such a difficult task. Everything you must say or adapt will most probably affect every person related to your educational community, and you must be sure of what priorities you want to bear in mind. For me, that has influenced the way I would teach, pay more attention to the consequences of my decisions, and get informed before making them. With attention to diversity, it's the exact same thing. The most valuable knowledge I get is that we are still on the way for inclusion, as sometimes we find more integration than inclusion itself, and that we will probably have another phrase after it, which would be better for everybody and not just for people with special needs. That is what everyone, especially teachers, must look for. This idea has been in my mind and made me more aware of the importance of attending to diversity. To finish with, I must say that the preparation of the video with all this knowledge I've been explaining into practice, I had to adapt every decision to my own context without losing attention to diversity, promoting coherence and showing my values. For me, it was a good way for summing up everything learned in this term. And that's all. I hope you liked the video. Bye!